Hey guys, welcome to Clockwork, Noodles. I am so impressed right now. I've just come off the literal hype train. That is episode 1 and I cannot wait to break it down with you guys. I had a suspicion this was going to be really good. I've even put it on my anime list fantasy league table. If you're not aware, my anime list is running fantasy leagues now every season, which I absolutely love because you can go through, select 6 animes. I think a few go on the bench and you predict what the best animes of the season are going to be. Last season I did meh, I came 50th. But this season I feel solidly good. I have the Zom100. I feel like this could be the sleeper hit of the season. Maybe it's not even going to be sleeper hit. Maybe everyone's going to be watching this one. And I've got so much to say and I can't wait to break it down with you guys. Hello and welcome back. The new season is in full swing. This is the third in my lineup now to be on the show. On a Saturday, we're going to have Clockwork Rewind, where I break down 12 different first episodes of animes that I have seen before and I show you guys what I love, why classics still hold up. Zom100, of course. And then I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday when we have Undead Girl Murder Fast. I am loving my lineup, guys. I love the fact that it's all horror-y type stuff going on. I would say this one's very comedy as opposed to horror. Still got horror in the title, and you know me, I do love horror animes. They don't happen enough. I am waiting for the Junji Ito stuff to hit at some point. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are looking after yourselves. If you're not subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Everything really helps as we are now heading to the next goal. Let's get straight to it, to perhaps the coolest episode I've ever seen. The way that this entire episode is composed. You start in the most desaturated environment. It was actually the artwork with this anime that actually made me really want to break it down. I looked at some of the manga and the covers looked absolutely insane. Everything had all these splotches of colour. I am hoping that they can deliver every single episode. I always get worried that things are going to fall apart after the first episode. But the opening scene, giving you all the data that you need. Staff card on the table. You know this guy works. You know the guy's eating ramen. He's got dark circles under his eyes. Zombie apocalypse looks so good. I'd rather be there than at work. And anyone who's wishing to be in an end of the world situation, they don't like their job. The zombie movie that he's watching has a great bit of foreshadowing. I would say the movie as well, I would happily watch. I am so there to watch that and break it down on the channel too, because it looked really good. I love the angles. I love the animation that they had going on. And even the colour in that initial segment was really, really good as well. This anime became very relatable to me. Shock horror, I don't actually like my job. I do work in retail. I do love the fact that I work around animals, but it's still a retail job at the end of the day. And there's been times when I've had horrible customers. I've come home, recorded for you guys, and had to pretend everything's okay. The first half is so relatable if you don't like your job, or if you've ever had a job that you just didn't get on with, or you've experienced some of these tropes that you experience in bad workplaces, you can relate. I think this anime could do very, very well because of how relatable it is. There's a lot of people out there who have jobs that they just don't enjoy. The guy is literally a mess. So the open shows you how much of a mess he really is. And then we get the flashback to show you exactly where it went wrong and how quickly it went wrong. I would say with this falls apart so quick. Normally it's about a week into the job and then all of the masks are off and then you know how crap it is. Dude literally has it fall apart in the first hour after his welcoming party. That first flash to colour, seeing him looking happy, out of college perhaps, whatever it is, he's just graduated. Dude's really excited, he's hopeful. I'm ready, I'm excited to start my job. The manager knows. The manager who's introducing him doesn't even know his name. He's like, he gives him a nudge to introduce himself because he didn't care about his name. It doesn't matter. You're just another number in this office. I really don't care. Too busy like flicking with his hair. He's putting on a mask. He's having to act and he's just playing with his hair because it's actually uncomfortable for him to be nice. Everyone in that workplace knows the truth, and every single one of those people want to say something, but they also just don't. I've experienced this too. You're going through a really rough patch at work, everything sucks, and then you take on a new hire, and then everyone's got to be happy. Everyone's got to be welcoming, hope that that person stays, or you're back to double hours again. It's the farce of having to go through all of this, that newbie becomes a sacrifice. All of that hope that you see when they're so excited to join this workplace, and you're like, oh no, that's it. You're joining the hell. Go, run while you still can kind of thing. I did think the girl was really sus quite quickly, because as she starts to leave, it looks like she's frowning at him. Something with her wasn't clicking for me. Obviously he falls for her, and I get it because she makes the workplace bearable. He hates his job, but he comes in because maybe a flash of her smile makes his day somewhat bearable in the workplace. We see this guy go through hell for 3 years, and then those payoffs, they pay off even more when you know what the guy has been through. So whoever wrote this carefully wrote it in a way that everything at the end would mean so much more. It would feel so much better because the payoff at the end, knowing that you never have to go in again, you can kind of get behind those joyous feelings right at the end when it explodes. love the flip at the welcome party. It all starts normal. You've seen many welcome parties before. You've seen it in anime. It's happened before. Everyone's eating. People are getting drunk. When they say that's over, you think, oh, they're going to go bed. That's it. It's probably late. The autopilot that immediately just hits and everybody goes back to the workplace. Those smiles all suddenly go back to the dark expressions. The color also starts to drain from this point as well. I wasn't expecting it to hit within like that hour. Now, I do know that this is probably going to be a jab at the work culture in Japan. I have seen aggressive retsuko. I've seen many animes that will hint or highlight some of the very toxic work culture that is over there. I knew about the falling asleep thing at work. It's not considered bad. If I fell asleep at my job, I'd probably get a good stern talking to. They probably wouldn't fire me because they need me to cover those hours, but they would still tell me, don't let it happen again. I was told that if you fall asleep at work, it means that you're working so hard that it's not frowned upon as much. As long as you still do your work, that's fine. You're just taking a moment to sleep at work, that's okay. I also knew that people weren't using their holiday. They've got all these perks and it looks great, but people are too scared to use it, or there's a stigma. If I take that holiday, it's selfish because people have to pick up my hours. It's also apparently the reason why Japan has so many amazing vending machines. Convenience, because a lot of people do not have the time to go and cook properly, look after themselves. Vending machines do the job of providing even better meals. Now, we're not talking the really rubbish ones that you find on the train stations in the UK, and half the time they don't work. In Japan, the vending machine culture is just one of its own. If I ever have the chance to go to Japan, I promise I'm going to produce a vending machine video just for you guys. I know it's been done 1,000 times, but I want to do my own version. I love the fact that you can get full meals, proper cooked meals from a vending machine. Apparently you can get crabs in a vending machine, like real life crabs, buy the fresh ingredients. Amazing world of vending machines that have sprung up around the Japanese culture. The next moment really hit home, a bit too close for me. The manager who always complains no matter what. If you're doing nothing, he will complain. If you're doing something, he will complain. The anime gets too real for me. Anime's barely been on screen for over 5 minutes. I'm invested. I'm so invested in finding out what's going to happen because I know what's going to happen. I know the title of the anime, but seeing the hell that this guy is in and then coming to the agreement that actually his life sucks, it gets darker and darker and you see the color draining very, very quickly. Every year that goes by that we see, it's scary. The first year that goes by, the color is probably about half desaturated. Somebody's pulling that color slider down a little bit and you can see the colleagues are slowly vanishing because either they've really been really sick or they finally eventually gotten out of that loop and they can't hack it anymore. No time for personal care. He smells awful. He hasn't had a bath in ages. We've also seen his house. We know it's full of trash because he has no time for himself to do absolutely anything. We also see the truth behind the frown, the girl who I was sus of coming out very quickly, and the fact that she's banging the CEO, but you don't know if it's force. It could just be a force thing, which is really, really bad. The stuff like this, the sleeping with the CEO to get up, brown nosing, get into the manager's good books, they're less likely to give you a lot of work, maybe playing favours, but I don't know if that is implied that she didn't want it. That could be even more darker than it is at first glance. Irony of him acting like a living zombie on the way home, bumping into things, and he looks like a zombie because you know what's coming. You know that flip is about to come. You know it's good foreshadowing because he pretty much feels like a zombie. So the irony that when everybody else turns into zombies and he couldn't be any more alive, I love how clever that really is. We see nepotism in the workplace where the guy's getting his son into it and now you've got to adjust your work style because it's playing favourites and everything. Something that happens a lot, sadly, where I work as well. Probably the worst thing. I had to swap branches because it was really bad in one of my branches and now I'm in a different branch. It just happens, guys. It just seems that wherever you go, there's always going to be favourites in the workplace regardless, and I'm no one's favourite. It sucks. But we do get very quickly to the 3rd year. Life is really just suddenly going into that downward spiral. The colour now is probably like 20% or something. He's just trapped. You see how trapped he's become. You start seeing circles everywhere when obviously he's listening to the guy yelling in the corner and he's drawing in the book and the circles and spirals start to appear. Reminding me a bit more of that Junji Ito kind of stuff where the spirals start to really take place in his work. It spirals to the point where the darkest wishes start to creep into his brain. The music cuts and he's just stood there, and thankfully there's a barrier there, or this anime probably wouldn't have gone any further, but it starts to blur and you know that there's people who've been in his situation who maybe weren't stopped by the barrier, who maybe actually followed it through. Know that Japan's suicide rate is absolutely awful. The realness, at the end of the day, this sequence is supposed to be serious. The sequence is supposed to be real. I know what's about to come and it's going to be amazing, but it goes black and white. The scene may as well just be black and white by this point. That's the last time we see colour. All of the colour is gone. We've literally gone black and white. The guy is literally looking like a zombie who's on autopilot. He's just getting up and he hates it. And we can see him screaming. You can see him waking up and screaming that he just doesn't want to go to work. A horror story. The real horror story isn't the zombies. The real horror story is the fact that this became somebody's life. The music at this point seems really happy and chirpy, despite the contrast on screen, the juxtapositioning of the guy who, at this point, considering some really bad stuff, and he's spiraled into depression. And there's more spirals again. You're seeing more spirals as he goes to try and find his landlord because he hasn't had time to do absolutely anything. We're about to go into the flip, but at the same time, I do want to say that as much as I am praising the amazing composition, the amazing writing of the first half, it's a very serious topic that I don't want to be seen taken lightly. I suffer with depression myself. I'm not taking it as a joke to how serious the first half is and how well it's actually written, how that depression has come along and how toxic a workplace can be to lead to that mental health decline. Let's talk about the flip, that absolutely spectacular moment where there's silence. You know it's happening. You know, this is it. All the way through that first half, I'm like, when are we going to start zombieing? When's it going to kick in? How is it going to happen? And this is it. I knew that the art was going to do the splashes of colour thing, and I like that. The art's also favouring the fact that, YouTube doesn't like the human being juice, so the colour splashes really do help. Explosion of colour as it all starts to dawn upon him. In any other anime, he's probably just got the girl of his dreams. He's probably just actually got the promotion of his dreams or something. So full of life, the best thing ever has ever happened to him. How juxtapositioning it is that the end of the world has just been announced. Everything's falling apart. Society has fallen into absolute dishevelment. He is so happy right now because he's realised, I don't have to go to work anymore. This is the best thing for me. It's a sad world where the thing that you're looking forward to the most is not actually having to work. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because all the music pulls back. We've got that silence as he's running along the rooftop and the plane has gone over. Then we go into his yell. Really nicely composed. Hats off to whoever wrote this and composed this and animated it as well. I do also hope that the animators working on this project do not relate to the first half, because I have heard horror stories about animation, them paying very little, working their teams really hard. I think something also came out recently about Into the Spider-Verse's recent one with the way that they treat animators. It really does suck that the first half of this show is people's realities. It's not as uncommon as you're hoping that it would be. A lot of this is happening somewhere in the world. He does return to his youth, his younger years. He's suddenly that hopeful kid that we saw 3 years ago. The colours have all physically returned. The sliders are back up to normal again. Clever composition of how they've pieced it together and made it build up to this point. This is the highest moment in the anime. Parkouring down a building, because it's driving him to the point where he can move so well. I'm also shocked that somebody so exhausted can move this well. But I guess if you suddenly had that rush of adrenaline, knowing that it's over, I have broken free of that cycle, I can understand how he's suddenly parkouring over a few benches and crushing a few zombies. It's great. He wants to go and confess to the girl regardless. If the world suddenly fell apart this minute, what are you about to go and do? See, if the world suddenly fell apart, I can't travel to Japan. I could try boating over to France, but it would take a lifetime. Me trying to get to Japan somehow would be probably out of the window. I'm stuck with probably exploring the UK. I guess at that point, I'd maybe go down to Cornwall because it's sunny and pretty down there, or I'd go up to Scotland because it's quite enjoyable over there as well. But with him, the first thing he wants to do is thank the person who's made living in that hellscape at least bearable, because seeing her face at least made it bearable. World is literally falling apart all around him, but the music at this point is the most joyous it's ever been. But this perhaps is the best resignation scene I've ever seen in an anime. Bowing, taking the tie off looked so good. It looked like he was going into battle. It's animated so epically. The guy's convulsing, turning into a full-on zombie. He rams him. He just rams him. It's so epic. Returns to becoming just manga lines. The colour is gone because it's so epic. Pushing him out the window, then suddenly getting that silence and explosion of colour. It topped off the scene so nicely. I couldn't have written that any better. Then turning around, telling the girl, this is how I feel. I love you. I've always loved you. And of course, she's gone. She's long gone. She's turned into a zombie as well. It seems that he probably appeared to her. Maybe he turned her into a zombie. I don't know. Some oppai is hanging out. They were in the middle of something. The moment where he tells her the truth and runs away, it feels like we've fully, properly cut ties with his old life. It's so refreshing. It almost feels rejuvenating that the guy has said goodbye to such a toxic life that I feel for him. I'm happy for him. He said goodbye. He said his thank yous. It's a relief to hear him getting all of his chest, and it must be almost cathartic to him. The end of the world has never looked so good. He's accepted that at any point I could die, but there's never enough time to do what it is that I want to do. Even if the world has ended, he still pays. There's still money on the desk. He's bought his list and he's going to start making that bucket list of everything I want to do. I have things I want to do, but if the world suddenly ended, some of the things on my list I can't do. The Japan one, for example. I also wanted to eventually own my own home. I guess maybe I could take a abandoned home and own it. So maybe that one's on the list. Depend on how the world's falling apart. If it's something like a disease comes back, probably don't stand a good chance of being around long. But I love the fact that he's going to make the most of it until he eventually, no doubts, turns into a zombie. So even if he turns into the zombie at the end of this one, it's still a very good ending for him because he did everything that he wanted, and being a zombie is the end game for this one. It's probably going to end in tragedy. It's perhaps going to be the most happiest anime of the season, despite the fact that it's about the apocalypse. I've really had fun with this anime. I think this anime has got potential. This first episode, I would happily rate it like a 10 out of 10 for writing. I can expect it's probably going to be on my midway review at some point if it continues doing this well. Maybe it'll creep onto the season review at the end. Maybe it will even be on the top 3 for me. I was blown away by this anime. I thought the animation was nice. I thought the pacing was nice. The music was nice. There's lots of really nice, clever little foreshadowing moments where you know what's going to happen. And the payoff at the end, seeing that spiral down to the lowest point, then the explosion to the highest point in the same episode. Really nice journey. Really nice transition moments too. Absolutely love this show already. Really excited to see where it goes. I hope you guys too enjoyed this episode. And I will see you guys again soon. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Make sure you take care of yourselves, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.